good to be here with all of you. So nice to be back at the Dharma Collective. I've been here a few times before. I subbed for Eve, and I also have led a series here on my own. My name is Nichol Chase. If I haven't met you, it's a pleasure to be in your presence and to be in your company. Those of you online as well as in person. And we'll begin with just a brief arrival. So just in a comfortable seated position where you are, making any adjustments needed. I invite you to either soften your gaze or close your eyes. Noticing your chosen posture in your body. How have you chosen to position your body parts, your spine? Is there anything that you can do, any small adjustment you can make for greater ease? Maybe giving yourself permission to make those small adjustments. Resting your awareness gently on your body. Feeling the breath as it moves through your body. Gently turning your attention to any feelings that are arising in this moment. They may be subtle, or they may be very present right now. Just thinking about touching on the edges of any feelings that are arising, a brief check-in. Noticing what's there. And turning your attention gently, I invite you to notice any thoughts that are arising, which could be replaying something that happened earlier today. You could be thinking about the sounds outside of this room, this space. Maybe noticing some resistance to the intrusion. Seeing also if you can tap into, just for a brief moment, your awareness of us gathering here together. A kind of awareness that extends beyond just your skin-encased body, your own feelings and your own thoughts. Can you sense into, feel into a kind of relational awareness, seeing yourself as something beyond just you, a little bit more spacious, porous? What does it feel like to be in connection with the people in this room? And this practice will be quite brief. A little tour of a few different layers of awareness, of being. I invite you to gradually draw your awareness back out. If your eyes have been closed, you may start to think about opening them very slowly. Maybe taking some deeper breaths. Sometimes I find it helpful to look around a little bit to reorient to external space. And also you can take up space by doing any stretching or adjusting your position. Sometimes that's helpful too. Okay. So welcome welcome again. Tonight, we'll continue along the same lines of what you've been exploring with Eve in open heart, open mind, with Tsoknyi Rinpoche, this beautiful, beautiful book, which I have over the last week been diving into reading and really enjoying the richness of it. Eve mentioned that she was exploring some of the concepts in this beautiful book and said, if you want to continue with this, when you come to sub for me to fill in, you can. And so I took that opportunity and felt really inspired by that. Tonight, we'll look at the 4 foundations of mindfulness that he talks about quite extensively in the book, and it comes up again and again, and is a lot of the kind of structure of the book. We'll focus in on the kind of inner awareness. It's kind of near the end of the book, starts in chapter 11, where it's more of a spacious awareness, kind of light, open, more porous way of understanding ourselves in our context, and also seeing ourselves as perhaps a part of everything, our place in that. So we'll get into a little bit more of the details, but for now, just hold lightly that that's what we're going to be exploring tonight. And I want us to do a playful little practice, another short practice, and we'll do a longer seated practice later. I am also a yoga teacher, an educator. I lead yoga teacher trainings, so I always like to bring in a little bit of somatics and embodied movement with these when I come in to sub or to teach. And there was an example provided in this book by this kind of wonderful exploration of inner awareness and this spacious awareness. One of Tsoknyi's teachers actually introduced this practice to him. And it's the simplest of practices, is what he described in the book, to have a momentary experience of this open, spacious awareness. If you've been following along with the book and you've gotten to this chapter, maybe you'll know this, but if you haven't, I think that you'll be kind of surprised and delighted by this practice as I was. It involves simply inhaling and lifting your arms up, and exhaling, allowing your arms to naturally fall with gravity and releasing all tension. And within that, I always have a little bit of a skeptical mind with things like that. Oh, that's really, really simple. I don't know if it actually is going to be impactful. And I tried it, and I was really surprised. What I'd love for you to explore and to watch for in this simple practice, and you will stand for this briefly, if it's comfortable to stand. This can also be done seated if it's better for you to sit. You might want to be careful with the direction that you let your arms fall, maybe down into your lap instead of down to your sides if you're seated. I invite you to notice if there's even the briefest of moments of awareness, of feeling like you're this big, broad, open sky where you lose a kind of sense of any separation, where it just feels like space itself, where you lose language, you lose identification with certain contexts and spaces, that it just feels like the biggest, bluest, wide open sky, like you're becoming that for even just a fraction of a second. So, are we ready to try this? Okay, I'm explaining it all because I'm going to stand up and then I won't have access to the microphone. So let's all practice it together, and I might kind of hunch down and say some things if I feel like there is a little bit more instruction that's needed, but for now, stand up. Okay, so getting yourself into a kind of comfortable position, maybe shaking off any tension. Oh yeah. I can use this microphone. What a revelation. And then once you feel like you've kind of dripped off any tension by shaking it off, you can simply stand tall, trying to find balance on your feet front to back, side to side. Where is center for you right now? And then you can simply start by observing the breath, standing here, gentle breathing in and out. What is the breath doing? Next, we'll actively work on lengthening the inhale and then releasing the exhale in a kind of rush, a torrent, a couple of times. And just think about the breath, and maybe in your mind's eye, think of including the arm movement with that. So you'll inhale deeply and exhale, release. Inhale and inhale. Last time, inhale. And even in that, you start to feel a little bit of more spaciousness, a little bit more release. Next, either just depending on the space you have around you, and you can certainly move forward, move back. You can bring your arms up and forward and then drop them down, or you can bring them out to the side and up and then drop them down. And I invite us to start when you'd like to, and do a few rounds at your own breath pace. I'm gonna set the microphone down now. So it'll be just, you really wanna release everything with your arms and with your breath with the exhale. More. Maybe two more. Let that settle. You can pause here for a few moments, allowing yourself to feel the impact of this simple, kind of playful practice. Thinking about what came up as a result of doing that practice. What is still percolating now? And when you feel ready, you can make your way back to a seated position of your choosing. So if you've ever been to any of my kind of have dropped in here to me teaching at Dharma Collective, you'll know that I also like to include all of you and like to hear from you. So my question is for you, anyone who would like to share, and full permission to not share and to simply be with the experience, is what did you notice? How was that for you? It might be, I didn't notice anything, it was kind of weird. And that's perfectly fine too. But did you notice any gaps or spaces where it felt like kind of pure awareness, like sky mind? This idea of that inner awareness or mindfulness of Dharma is also what Sokin refers to this as. So what did you notice? Did you notice any more spaciousness? What came up for you in that simple practice? Anything? Yeah.
I noticed that today I wasn't centered. When you said like feel your feet, I was like, oh, I'm way over here on my heels.
Yeah.
And so that one, I'm usually always aware of my feet, but today I was like, oh, I'm not centered. I'm leaning back.
Nice.
But as we went through the exercise, I found my center balance point.
Nice.
And so definitely felt a little bit more, a lot more relaxed and more centered. So it was nice.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. Love how what it naturally brought about is a feeling of being more centered. I think that that is something that is a kind of characteristic of finding that more open awareness, more spaciousness is, oh, I notice that I'm leaning too far back, too far forward. I'm holding tension in my body. How can I find center and ease in that center? Yeah. Very nice. Anyone else notice anything?
I can go.
Yeah.
I was just noticing when just closing eyes, like it just felt wretched sort of in my neck, it was like twisted. So it was kind of nice to sort of release some of that tension.
Nice.
And what came to mind in the mind, the sky mind is Eve used to talk about vividness a lot. And I forget all, like vividness, warmth. I think there are a couple others, but I'm forgetting them. But the vividness really came up after all of the dropping. It was very, very bright.
Yeah. Nice.
So that was nice to experience.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Help to release tension and vivid, like luminescent, it sounds like. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
After the third time, for a few moments afterwards, and then it came back, I just had this experience of vibration, like there was nothing else, just this vibration.
Nice.
Yeah, just for a few moments.
Nice.
Yeah,
Did it feel kind of pleasant?
Oh,
like
yeah.
it was, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I didn't notice sky or space, but I noticed myself as vibration that was kind of big.
Yeah. That's so great. A vibration that's kind of big. I feel compelled to share that the yogis, so like on the Hindu side, which also is I've studied some Hindu philosophy as well with my yoga background, and they describe that kind of open, spacious vibration as nada Brahma, and it is a description of the universe as sound, like the very fabric of the universe as being sound or vibration. And so perhaps maybe what you tapped into is the kind of spaciousness that is described as pure vibration. So yeah, that's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I like rushed over here from a busy work day, so doing like a brief somatic thing was really helpful for me. And while I didn't get to like, pure non-dual awareness, I did feel more present with just like the sensations that were happening.
Yeah.
Similar to Ron, for me, it was more kind of like tingly on the periphery.
Nice.
Is probably how I would describe it, similar to vibration.
Nice.
But yeah, I kind of got out of some of the like stories and things that were still kind of like percolating in my head, and some of those like ego self things that were still moving around in there. And for a few moments was just like, oh, okay, this is what's happening right now. These are the sensations in my body. So it was helpful to bring back to that.
Nice. That's wonderful. Yeah. And the thing that I'm always so struck by with these shorter practices is how much can happen in a short amount of time. Right? We can feel things, we can feel release, we can feel more spacious, we can become more present, and it doesn't take very much. Longer practices can build that up even more, but we can have these moments at any point during our day probably wouldn't want to be out in public doing this practice. But you know, it's something that could be easily in our back pocket, in our toolkit, as something that we could bring out. And at the very least, I had to try it because of the description in the book. I thought, oh, this is really interesting. What is that going to feel like? So thank you for indulging me, and thank you so much for sharing. I also love that kind of like that tingly sensation that you described is a indicator that your body is releasing tension or holding. It feels, it's becoming more open, more relaxed. So as we dive into a little bit more of the content of what we'll be exploring tonight, we will use this as a bridge to move into a longer practice that helps us to feel the concepts that we're exploring. And like I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to be looking at the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And these 4 foundations of mindfulness can be described as things that you probably already know and are very aware of. The body, right? The body sitting here, the body in the position that you choose, the body and kind of like the feeling of being embodied, the feeling of breathing through the body. We also have feelings, which are described as sensations and also emotions, and how they move through, how they weave together. Sensations and emotions are often quite interconnected. Has anybody ever noticed that? Maybe you could just anybody ever notice that there's an emotion, you feel it in a certain part of your body, shows up as tension, maybe tingling, warmth or coolness, right? So kind of the feeling landscape is also another one of the foundations that are described in this book of mindfulness. And we have the foundation of mindfulness of thoughts, mindfulness of thoughts. And thoughts, they have their own pace, they have their own nature. They can be very rapid in pace. They can be really sticky and really tense and really rigid. They can be really slow and sluggish and burdensome. They can be joyful and bubbly. They can have a lot of different qualities, right? They can also be telling stories. Love that that came up. They can also be making lists. Anybody have, I have a list making mind. So even sitting and trying to relax, I'm thinking of I have to do this, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this. So I'm creating little lists inside my mind. And I often, when I turn my attention to thoughts, I'm noticing that I'm doing that. I'm making the list. And they can also show up in the form of beliefs. Those really kind of sticky things that we believe about ourselves. Sometimes they can be extremely helpful and accurate. Oftentimes they are also not so helpful and inaccurate. Does anybody not have thoughts like that come up where you feel like, ooh, that thought is kind of that's very critical. I'm being very critical of myself right now. I'm kind of beating myself up with that thought. Anybody have a thought like that keeps on coming up? I certainly do. Yeah. And this is the way that awareness and experience unfolds, is that there's multiple layers of awareness. And then we also have what is called more open awareness. In the 4 foundations of mindfulness presented as it was in this book, Open Heart, Open Mind, it's described as mindfulness of Dharma. Mindfulness of Dharma, or this kind of clear way of seeing, this vividness, this kind of luminescence, this wide openness, this feeling of a deep exhale. And there's this really delightful story in the book about a visit. So he goes away to a monastery to train as a young boy to be like a teacher and practitioner of the Dharma, and finds that at a certain point he's able to make a trip home, like I think in his kind of within like the age range of, if I'm remembering correctly, he went back around 10 and he went back around 18 and had these experiences with his father who lived in Nepal and who also was a deep practitioner, where he had these lessons and was really, really caught up in all the self-criticism and feeling like he wasn't doing a good job, that he wasn't doing enough, that you know, you have these intrusive thoughts come up. And he thought like it was failure because the thoughts were getting carried away. And he needed to be peaceful all the time in here to be actually doing the practice well, And his father gave this little anecdote, something that comes up a lot when we talk about practice, we talk about Buddhism, we talk about Dharma of any kind. The analogy of the sky and the clouds. I'm probably familiar with that, but this was a very kind of timely story. And they also, thankfully, they were able to look up in the sky and there were beautiful puffy clouds. So they looked out the window at the sky, this big blue sky, and these little clouds moving. And he said, you know, look out at the sky. Like, do you see the clouds? And do you notice how they move and shift and change? But what happens to the sky? The sky is open, it's peaceful, it contains all of the movement, all of the vicissitudes. It is there even as the wind blows, shifts and changes through with the clouds. It's even there when there are storm clouds present. Even when you can't see the sky, it's there. And this is a really great way of us to imagine our own experience, that we do have the relativity of the clouds. We have our bodies, we have our feelings, we have sensations, we have emotions, we have different thoughts. We even have different kind of experiences in relationships. Yet then the further we expand, the further we move out, the further we kind of can have that open consciousness, that spacious consciousness, we can be more in an observer phase and we can be more like that open sky. We can be more vivid. We can have more like clear seeing, more insight into the ways of being, right? I presume that if you've been studying Buddhism to any degree, these are not new concepts to you, but these are always helpful to come back to. And one of the things I was really struck by in this book is the beautiful simplicity of how it was presented. It's like we have these foundations of mindfulness. We can remember and accept all of the things that move, right? All of the relativity, all of the things that are seemingly separate, right? When we get to the open sky kind of awareness, we realize, and we even think about like quantum physics, if you go down to the kind of micro level, there is really no real separation between the microphone and me, between the computer and me, between us. Like we are all this kind of soup of floating particles that become one together. So we can kind of, at least from a conceptual framework, we can see ourselves as connected with everything and tap into that, have moments, glimmers of dropping into that, and still know, yeah, you know, like to walk to my car after, like I have to use this body, right? I can't just float there. Or I have to, in order to pick up the microphone, I have to get my body up, I have to walk over there, I have to use this hand to grasp it, I have to use the muscles in this arm to hold it up. And then if I want to say something, there's coordination needed there. So the relative is very important, right, to live in this world. And we don't want to just get stuck there, to think in that very limited, narrow way that this is all that we are, right? This is all that we are. I also really like, and so this is going to kind of layer on top of the talk about these 4 foundations of mindfulness, the very kind of useful model that is used for the different types of like I knowing. It's like, what he has for these different types of I. Let's see if I can. Different types of I, they move from this kind of relative perspective, this kind of precious, so coming from the like, I identify as myself. And then there's the kind of precious I, like your connection, your stickiness, your attachment to your own self-identification. So like, he kind of goes through a developmental arc with these different relationships with your ego, with I. Or when you're born, you start to become aware of, oh, I have a separate body. I can manipulate this body. I can move through space. I have sensations. I have my own emotions. I have my own way of relating to the external world. And that's kind of like an essence perspective. Like, yeah, you know, I am separate. As we develop, we start to get layered on top of that, certain things that become very solid in our own way of, you know, of our own identity, our own way of thinking about ourselves. And so that kind of ego construct becomes the next layer. On top of that, then we start to get attached to these certain types of identifications and become like really precious with it, is the word that is used, which I really like. The precious I. Beyond that, we have what is like a social I, who we are in certain kinds of social constructs, in certain relationships, which it's different depending on where you find yourself. Yes? Can everybody agree? Like, I'm not the same with my family as I am with some of my friends, as I am in a work context. I'm not the same sitting here in this kind of context as I am with, you know, someone that I like to go out dancing with, right? Those are very different contexts, and you show up as different versions of yourself in social relationship. And then we can start to move beyond that and beyond even thinking of ourselves as an I. We can think of more of the spacious I. Like, I am a part of everything, which takes some practice and we get glimmers of it, but it's hard to hold on to. It's hard to remember. It's hard to hold on to, especially when we're in the midst of something that feels particularly challenging, right? I find that that's when I need to remember the most, and it's the hardest for me to drop back into that deep knowing of like, oh, wow, okay. Oftentimes, what helps with that is also dropping into what is often referred to as common humanity. Like, just as I am suffering right now, maybe with anxiety, with stress, just as I'm suffering right now with this real loss, there is someone else out there who is experiencing the same thing right now. And in that, across space, across time, across experience, we can have that kind of common connection, like that common humanity connection. It helps us to drop into, yes, I am humaning in this world and we are humaning together, and we can rest in the knowing of that. Like, this is something that is part of the human experience. And can I be with that? And can I feel supported and connected in that knowing? right? That to me also is a part of how we move into this kind of spacious inner awareness and how that can arise. So I'd love for us now to move into a little bit of a longer practice. And we'll explore these kind of layers of the ego, and we'll move from the more relative to the more absolute, moving through the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and then taking a little bit of time to have a feeling of integration of those two. It's what is needed to show up skillfully in this life with clear seeing, clear knowing, and maybe even move towards showing up as more of a bodhisattva, like clear seeing, but also with a great desire to do something positive with our lives in this world. So knowing that, integrating that, having the relative, which allows us to do something, right? That is how we can do something, but also know like, yeah, this is for me, but this is for all. This is, and we are connected in this. So ready to dive into this practice, and we'll do a little bit more sharing. We'll do a little bit more sharing after. So bring yourself into a comfortable seated position again. And settle in once again. With your seat on the floor, with your legs tucked up in. For those of you who would like to lie all the way down, and those of you online or in person, that's also fair game too. Anything that will help your body to be at ease, rested, calm, comforted. Also invite you to either soften your gaze or close your eyes completely. Finding a posture that feels dignified and easeful. Relaxed and steady. Beginning to feel your breath at the tip of your nose. A slight cooling sensation with each inhale, and a bit of warmth with each exhale. Settling in to notice where stillness is in your body. Also noticing where there's movement, activity. Simply being, simply noticing. We've already begun to, in this process of settling in, move into the first foundation, this kind of mindful awareness, awareness of the body. To take this yet one step further, I invite you to notice the contact of your body with the surface that is supporting your weight. The chair, the floor. What would it feel like to allow more of your weight to be supported? And what does that do to the quality of the way that your body is positioned? How much ease is present now? Noticing just your feet and toes. Getting curious about what's happening in that part of your body. Noticing your lower legs. And your upper legs. Areas of tension and ease, warmth and coolness. Moving into your pelvis. If you're sitting, be noticing how your pelvis is supported by the chair or the floor. Are you gripping the fronts of your hips? Can you tell anything that's gripping to relax? Moving up through your torso. Curious about any activity happening in this part of your body. Noticing the beating of your heart. Moving into your shoulders and upper arms. What do you find there? Down through your forearms, your hands and fingers. Noticing even the sensations that arise in your palms. Is there warmth or coolness? Is there tingling? Moving up through your neck. And allowing awareness to fill your head and face. Is there any tension in your head, neck, and face that you can release? What can you let go of? Now feeling the body as a whole. As though the body is made up of breath, becoming breath. You may even feel the pulsation of your breath through your entire body. Your body as though a lung, expanding a bit on the inhale and contracting a bit on each exhale. The aliveness of the whole body. And here with your body, I invite you to also notice any awareness of a feeling tone. What is arising with any feelings? You may have already connected with some sensations, which in many cases are connected with emotions. Seeing if you can simply notice the edges of any emotions. Where they reside in your body. Sensations that are arising. And also giving yourself permission to move away at any point in time from feelings if they feel like a little bit too much. You can simply come back to your breath at the tip of your nose. And if it's okay, continuing to explore the feeling landscape, the flavor, the tone of emotion. Which could look like joy or sadness. Could look like anger or a feeling of equanimity. or perhaps even multiple feelings at once. Can you begin to see and be with any feelings? So you're watching the clouds in a big blue sky. Seeing the clouds, not becoming the clouds. And with your body and your feelings, I invite you to turn your attention, your awareness, to any thoughts or thinking that are arising. Any thoughts that are arising. Mental activity can take many forms. Can be on the end of the spectrum that is more rigid, repetitive. Thoughts can also move at a rapid pace and go all over the place. Be more chaotic. Starting by noticing the quality of your thoughts. What is the pace? How much activity, how much stillness? How much constriction? How much spaciousness? And as you observe your thinking, noticing if there are any beliefs that arise, any specific words, or even colors, or pictures, or textures. All of this is mental activity. All of this is thinking. Just as you did with feelings, seeing your thoughts as clouds in that open sky. Simply observing as they arise and change. Being with thoughts, thinking. Taking with you your body, your feelings, your thoughts. Spend a brief moment broadening your awareness to notice how these three interact with one another to the degree that you can. Does a thought bring along with it a feeling? Do you notice a response in your body? Does a sensation in your body bring about a feeling and a thought? What is the chain reaction? What is the weaving together of these three ways of knowing, of mindfulness? Now, I invite you to imagine that there's a big, powerful wind, powerful yet pleasant, clearing wind. All the clouds of your body awareness, feelings, and also thoughts are gently yet powerfully blown away. See if you can get a picture in your mind's eye, a felt sense of this clearing wind, until all that remains is a wide open, beautiful, crystal blue sky. Gazing into this clear open sky, Notice what arises in you. Notice even if it's difficult to connect with that. Know that that's okay too. Might imagine the clearing wind, this clearing, cleansing, gentle wind coming in again and trying to clear the space. Big, open, luminescent sky. And knowing as well that it's quite natural for this type of connection to be quite difficult. Our minds form many attachments and aversions. For most of our living, breathing moments, we live in more of the relative. We live in more of this ego space of body, feelings, thoughts. So holding on to even a little awareness of that open sky and that it exists. See if you can rest more in that spaciousness of the sky, but allow all the clouds to come back. Have the awareness of the body, the awareness of feelings. Thoughts. Perhaps seeing them as a beautiful dance. Watching them all as they dance together as though watching them on a stage. How do they move with one another? How are they in relationship? Can you hold space for all of it? As that open sky. And from this place of noticing, noticing if some of the clouds have gotten bigger, some have gotten smaller. What can you let go of right now? What is clouding your attention? Can you allow that cloud to dissipate or get smaller or be blown away? One more moment, just noticing if you can come closer to that clear, open sky, and also accepting what still remains. Accepting what's there and seeing what you can let go of right now. In a moment, begin to bring this practice to a close. Lingering here, allowing yourself to continue to move in a little slower pace. I invite you, when you feel ready, if your eyes have been closed for this practice, to gently open your eyes. Again, as before, for our shorter practices, you can reorient from the internal to the external by looking around, shifting your position, doing any stretching, movement. Welcome back. So we had a little bit of a primer for this with our opening, grounding. It's expanding into a little longer, deeper practice. And so I'd love to hear from you. What questions are arising? What came up during your practice? What came up with a lot of what we explored with Tsokni Rinpoche's beautiful book and this teaching, the 4 foundations of mindfulness? I'm especially curious to know if there's some kind of insight that you got from the practice, some quality with any of the kind of foundations that we explored. Did you notice, for example, like, oh, I didn't know I was holding that tension in my body, right? I notice that a lot. I tend to hold a lot of tension in my jaw and my neck. So the moment that I turn my attention within, like, oof, I don't need to grip my jaw right now, do I? Okay. Did you notice that there was any feeling content there? Did it stay the same? Were you able to release it? Did it shift? Did it change? And were you able to feel any of that kind of more spaciousness, or even holding that awareness of the open sky and kind of seeing everything dance? As though I have a background as a Royal Academy ballerina, and so I was picturing like a beautiful kind of ballet company dancing in front of me, like, oh, and there's a thought, and there's my body going again. It's wanting to hold tension. No, let's come back here. And then, that emotion's coming up. Oh, there's sadness. Where does that go? It's in my throat. I'm curious, what did you notice? Did you notice any of those types of things? Anything surprise you? And those of you online too, I would love to hear from you too, if anybody wants to share. Yeah, we should get you the microphone.
I noticed I had more energy. Um, I thought I would be more tired. I was worried that I might be too tired to come tonight,
Yeah.
but it's actually very refreshing. And thought-wise, I've been thinking things I haven't thought in like decades. So
Cool.
I didn't even know I had these thoughts in my mind.
Yeah,
So it's been fun exploring.
it's wonderful. Love that it's been fun exploring. Yeah.
I can also go, have the microphone. I was actually going to ask a question if you could repeat the 4 foundations of mindfulness. I think I have maybe 3, but I'm missing 4.
Absolutely. So we have 3 that kind of live in the more relative, and 1 that lives more in the absolute. And as it's stated, and this is kind of Tsokni's framing of it and language to explain it, but it comes from all of the Buddhist texts that he studied. So mindfulness of the body. So really related to posture and being in the body and a sense of the body. Once we start to kind of bridge into specific sensations and things that are happening in the body, he kind of categorizes that more within feelings. But I feel like there's a little bit of a blending that happens as you move from one kind of foundation to the next. So a little bit of blending there. The next one, so mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, which includes emotions and sensations, mindfulness of thoughts, and mindfulness of Dharma, which he describes as this kind of vivid, open, kind of clear seeing. This clear seeing the wide open sky type of awareness. Yeah. Body, feelings, thoughts. Thoughts, Dharma. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like in the evenings my mind gets very active, but I was definitely noticing nice patterns of like really thinking a certain thought was like really juicy and was going to lead somewhere really good, and I feel like I was getting a little bit stuck in the soup of thinking because I would see that and sort of and use some of my practice, but I was definitely like, sometimes it's like, okay, I got to go back to the body, or I gotta circle back to somewhere else because I'm still just kind of in the soup.
Yeah.
So those are some things that I noticed.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing. I can definitely relate to that. I think that we probably all have been in that space where thoughts, they just kind of want to carry us away from here to there. And there are practices where you just kind of allow it all to happen. So sometimes when you're in that type of headspace and they're delightful thoughts and really interesting, maybe that's the opportunity to open up to the practice of just, like allowing yourself to observe everything that's happening. I find, especially when I'm like in a creative mind state and the thoughts are really arising, I have a lot of a struggle with not like opening my eyes, writing things down, like creating some sort of picture or so it's also, a very interesting thing to notice too, of like, oh, well, I'm going here. Can I allow myself to go there a little bit and then bring myself back? And what does that feel like? So yeah, thanks for sharing. I'm glad that you're really curious about it and open to the thoughts. And I think that's kind of the point. Yeah, yeah.
Hi. So I definitely like when we were doing the feeling thing, I felt a lot of, I would say like fear or anxiety, and then like during the meditation, you said you just allow yourself to like let that go.
Yeah.
Right. And I felt like an amazing release at that time of just letting it be, and it was a very cool experience for me. So thank you.
So wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. That's a big win. That's a big win. Yeah, Victor.
Hi, thank you. I think the subject that I reflected on happened during the shorter practice. And basically, I was just thinking of something that we come across in Buddhism, which is um, it- many things. But so we are these individuals, but at the same time, we are uh, one and the same as everybody else who is surrounding us. And I guess kind of like the analogy that helps us understand that concept is kind of like each one of us is a drop of water and we're not the entire ocean, but we all share the elements that the other person has.
Yeah.
So after seeing that in a full context, so in essence, we are all one and the same. Philosophically, I understand it, but I think rarely do I stop to think about it and to try to internalize it. So during today's practice earlier, I was just thinking that it's so easy to be caught up into living life as an individual, especially when you're having painful experiences. Having said that, um, I had the opportunity to visualize to and think, what would it be like to think of yourself as being uh, me being part of you and everyone in that room and everyone in the universe. So I had this visualization of thinking of I had this visual image of the Buddha embracing the entire planet. And then I was thinking or feeling like, what if I'm one dot of that image? Let's say I'm a dot in his nail. But then if I start thinking about it, you, the presenter, and you, my brothers and sisters in this practice, are all the other dots of within that image. And it was just really powerful because it really helped me feel to be the individual self, but beyond that, for the first time in perhaps years, I genuinely felt like, okay, I'm part of an entire being which goes beyond me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's such a gorgeous image of us coming together as like we're each a little dot. We're each maybe like a cell in the body, and we form all together this kind of collective body. We move and breathe together, that we can kind of feel into that. I've often kind of used a similar image to have a felt sense of that. It's a really nice one too, because we have a body. We know what it feels like to be in this human body, in this form. So it is a nice bridge for us to feel like, okay, well, I can join and be a part of some sort of larger body. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I'm glad that that is what came up and that's what's coming in really strong for you. Thanks, Victor.
Apologies. I forgot to add, I was able to let go of those thoughts at the end. So
Nice.
I didn't even know I was holding on to those thoughts.
Nice.
So I'm glad to, it's a relief. And part of me being here tonight is I've been thinking more about harmony and, excuse me, and in order to get peace, we need to have harmony as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What a beautiful, I feel like that quote should be shared broadly with humanity right now. Like, in order to have peace, we need to have harmony, right? And a lot of what at least popular culture and the news and things out there are, we're kind of being bombarded with how separate we are and how we're not in harmony, how it's very dissonant. Like I feel that it doesn't feel like harmonious resonance. It feels like a lot of dissonance in our world right now. That can take a toll. It can impact the way that we feel on all of these layers, these foundations of mindfulness. It changes how we feel in the body. It changes the feeling tone. It changes our thoughts. Like I find myself when I really kind of get sucked into and aggravated by all these things we're being bombarded with, having a lot of recursive thoughts and a lot of feelings that are associated with those thoughts. Can anybody relate to that right now? Yeah, so the practice is really what has been sustaining me. It really, really is. I have found myself many moments just feeling such a deep, immense gratitude that for some reason in this lifetime, I have been able to find the Dharma, to find these practices, to find these teachings in various different forms. And it makes all the difference. It really, really makes all of the difference to be able to have something to come back to lean on, and to have a support network community to be able to engage in that with. So yeah, I'll just say that I've been relying on that and on spaces like this. On spaces like this, it's really, really, it's gold. It's gold. Yeah.
So on that subject, for me, like maintaining this feeling now, it's pretty easy when I'm here, right? And it's not now that I'm trying to like become in line or, but it's what I feel now is how long can I keep it once I leave this building? And it's really interesting because just sometimes I'm in a neighborhood and as soon as I see the building, I come back to this state of being, right? Or sometimes I run into people from the Dharma Center and they kind of anchor me back, So question is like, do you have any practices when you're not around the Sangha, when you're not around, like even for me, this place is like an anchor, and when you're in real life and life starts pulling at you, it's what do you do to come back? To that, you can call it like Ram said, that vibrational energy or that feeling that you had, or, is there practices that you do to kind of like, I guess, anchor you back to this state of being?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's not easy. It is not easy. I think I have a couple of things that help me, and I'm sure you mean we're amongst a lot of people who have been really deeply in practice and do live a human life. So I'm sure that you all have wisdom to share too. So I do welcome anyone else to share some thoughts or recommendations. I think that what is important to me is the frequency of tapping into this wellspring in spaces like this, that we kind of build up a little bit of a shield per se, or just like kind of this protective barrier that allows us to sit more in that kind of open blue sky sort of space, even when we see like lots of things are maybe even raging around us. Feels like it's raging, like it's pervasive, it's a lot, right? And also we can develop more capacity to be with even extreme things out in the world. If we can find that kind of inner space inside of here, that maybe is a representation of how it feels to be in the physical space. It's like, how do we translate, have enough frequency of being and feeling into this resonant, harmonious space, and then take that inside, so that even if we're in environments and circumstances, relationships where it is not so harmonious, that we can still have harmony inside here. When I find myself spiraling and getting overwhelmed, I have these little kind of in the moment practices where I can even do them so subtly that if I'm with other people, it won't be noticed. The first and most important practice for me, and also this is something that has been studied and proven to be effective in regulating your nervous system, bringing you into more calm, is check your breath. Like, what is happening with the breath? Can you deepen? Can you lengthen your inhale and exhale? If you can just simply, and you can even be close to another person in a heated conversation, you can still be breathing deeply. I hear you. Yeah, that's really hard right now. Yeah. And so you might even like take some deep breaths, like, yes, I want to have this conversation. Can we table it? Then that gives you kind of the little space, clarity of mind to be able to make a wise choice, to remain in the conversation, to remove yourself from the conversation. So the breath, and if you can get away and provide a little bit of a barrier, like I might play around with, and this is a new practice for me, the dropping of the arms, but I actually really like it. You can like go to the bathroom, go to the restroom, and do that a few times. I'm just gonna let all this go, all this like anxious feeling inside, all this overwhelm, this tension, this gripping, and it's like, right? Maybe do a short little practice. I always shaking. I love shaking. That's a really great practice too. So those are my 2 recommendations. Yeah. I think we are just about at end time. So I don't ever rush right out after, but I do want to, something that I always bring in for when I come to the Dharma Collective is I'm also a singer, I'm a vocalist, and a chant in closing that I'd like to offer this evening is very much connected with the kind of bodhisattva vow. It's about caring for humanity. It's about wanting to act in ways that promote well-being for all. It's called Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. And it essentially means, may all beings everywhere, in every realm, in every world, everything that exists, be free from suffering, happy, at ease, and may they thrive. So I invite you to incidents. It's in Sanskrit. Be at ease where you are. You can maybe gently close your eyes, or if you want to keep your eyes open, you can too. I'm going to close mine. And just listen to this chant. I'll sing through it a few times, 3 times. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu 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 loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May it be so. Thank you all so very much for being here. Thanks for practicing. Thank you for your company. Thank you for your skill. And may we spread what we've generated here out there. That's where we're all making a difference. Thanks, everyone. Thank you all online. So good to be with you.